Marie Curie, a world full of questions. In the middle of the 19th century, the world was changing faster than ever before. Steam trains carried people across long distances. Factories filled growing cities with new machines. Scientists were making exciting discoveries about nature. Yet many mysteries still remained. No one knew what was hidden inside the smallest pieces of matter. No one understood that some materials carried an invisible energy deep within them. Those discoveries were still waiting. Far away, in the city of Warsaw, a little girl loved asking questions. She was not born into a famous family. She did not grow up in a rich home. Books became her greatest treasure. Learning became her greatest adventure. Every lesson opened another door. Every answer led to another question. But there was one problem. The world she lived in did not always believe that girls should have the same opportunities as boys. Many dreams seemed impossible before they even began. Still, the little girl refused to stop learning. She believed that knowledge belonged to everyone who was willing to search for it. She could not know it then. One day, her quiet determination would change science forever. Her name was Marie Curie, and her story begins with a young girl who simply wanted to learn. A girl who loved learning. Marie Curie was born on November 7, 1867, in Warsaw, Poland. Her birth name was Maria Skłodowska. She was the youngest of 5 children. Her parents were teachers who believed that education could change a person's life. Their home was filled with books. Conversations often centered on science, mathematics, and literature. From an early age, Maria listened carefully. She asked thoughtful questions. She enjoyed discovering how the world worked. School quickly became her favorite place. She learned new ideas with remarkable speed. Her teachers noticed her curiosity and her excellent memory. But life outside the classroom was not always easy. At that time, Poland was under Russian rule. Many Polish traditions, and even the Polish language, faced restrictions. Education was closely controlled. Maria's family believed that learning was one way to protect their culture and their future. Then, sadness entered their home. When Maria was still a young girl, her older sister became seriously ill. Not long afterward, her mother also passed away. The house that had once been filled with laughter became much quieter. Even during those difficult years, Maria did not stop learning. Books became a place of comfort. Each page reminded her that knowledge could open doors that grief could never close. She quietly made a promise to herself. No matter how difficult life became, she would keep learning. Soon, that promise would ask her to make an even greater sacrifice. A dream beyond Warsaw. As Maria grew older, her love of learning became even stronger. She dreamed of studying science at a university, but there was a problem. At that time, women were not allowed to attend the University of Warsaw. Her dream seemed impossible. Instead of giving up, Maria looked for another path. She joined a secret group of students known as the Flying University. Classes were held in different homes. The locations changed often. Teachers and students met quietly, sharing books and ideas. For Maria, every lesson felt precious. She knew that education was something worth protecting. Still, she wanted more. She and her older sister, Branya, made an unusual agreement. Maria would work as a governess and earn money to help pay for Branya's medical studies in Paris. Later, Branya would help Maria continue her own education. It was a promise that would take years to fulfill. Maria left her family and began working in the countryside. During the day, she taught children. At night, she studied by herself. Whenever she found a little free time, she opened a book. Some evenings were long, some were lonely, but she never forgot her dream. She believed that every page she read brought her one step closer to it. Years passed before the opportunity finally arrived. With a small suitcase, a few books, and a heart full of hope, Maria boarded a train for Paris. She was leaving her home behind, but she was moving toward the future she had imagined for so many years. And in Paris, A new chapter of her life was about to begin. A new life in Paris! When Maria arrived in Paris in 1891, everything felt new. The streets were busy. The buildings seemed endless. People spoke a language she was still learning. She had come to study at the Sorbonne, one of Europe's greatest universities, but life there was far from easy. Maria rented a tiny room near the university. It was simple. There was a bed, a table, a chair, and a small window. During the winter, the room became so cold that she sometimes studied, while wearing all the clothes she owned. Money was always scarce. To save every possible coin, she often ate only bread, fruit, and tea. Some days, she forgot to eat at all because she was so focused on her books. Yet she never complained. Every morning, she walked to her classes with the same excitement. Physics, mathematics, chemistry. Each lecture opened a new world. She spent long hours in the library after class. When other students went home, Maria often stayed a little longer. She wanted to understand every idea completely. Her hard work soon began to show. She earned excellent grades and gained the respect of her professors. For the first time, she felt that her dream was becoming real. She had traveled hundreds of miles to find knowledge. Now knowledge was beginning to find her. Before long, another meeting would quietly change the course of her life. She was about to meet a scientist whose curiosity matched her own. His name was Marie Curie. Two curious minds. Maria first met Marie Curie through a fellow scientist. Pierre was quiet and thoughtful. He cared little about fame. Like Maria, he loved asking questions and solving difficult problems. Their first conversations were not about ordinary things. They spoke about physics, experiments, new discoveries, and the excitement of understanding something that no one had understood before. The more time they spent together, the more they realized how much they had in common. Both believed that science was more than a career. It was a way of exploring the world. Pierre admired Maria's determination. She admired his patience and careful thinking. In 1895, they were married. Instead of taking a long honeymoon, they traveled through the French countryside on bicycles. It was simple, quiet, perfect for two people who enjoyed learning more than luxury. Soon, they began working side by side. Their laboratory was small and poorly equipped. The roof leaked when it rained. The winters were cold. The summers were hot. But neither of them paid much attention to the building. They were too busy thinking about the questions waiting inside their experiments. Together, they formed an extraordinary team. One brought endless determination. The other brought careful precision. Neither could imagine that their greatest discovery was only a few years away. It would begin with a mystery that no one could explain. The mysterious rays. In 1896, a French scientist named Henri Becquerel made an unexpected discovery. He found that uranium gave off invisible rays without sunlight or heat. Scientists were surprised. No one fully understood what was happening. Maria became fascinated by the mystery. She decided to make it the subject of her research. Day after day, she carefully measured different materials. She compared one sample with another. She recorded every result. Slowly, a pattern began to appear. Some minerals produced much stronger rays than pure uranium. That did not seem possible. Maria believed there had to be another unknown element hidden inside those rocks. Pierre became just as interested. Together, they began an enormous task. They collected tons of a black mineral called pitchblende. Using large iron pots, they stirred heavy mixtures for hours. The work was exhausting. The laboratory filled with heat, dust, and strong chemical smells. Their hands became rough from the constant labor. Yet every small measurement gave them new hope. Late one evening, after another long day of work, Maria looked at her notes. The numbers told a story. Something unknown was waiting to be discovered. She could not see it. She could not touch it. But she was certain it was there. The search was far from over. In fact, it was only beginning. A faint blue glow. Months of hard work slowly turned into years. Maria and Pierre spent countless hours inside their small laboratory. They stirred heavy pots filled with crushed minerals. They heated chemicals over hot fires. They carefully measured every result. The work was slow. Sometimes it felt endless. Most people would have given up. But Maria believed that the strange rays were trying to tell a story. She simply had to keep listening. Finally, in 1898, the couple announced the discovery of a new element. Maria named it polonium, in honor of her homeland, Poland. Only a few months later, they discovered another element. This one was even more remarkable. They called it radium. The new element gave off a steady stream of invisible energy. At night, tiny samples of radium produced a soft blue glow. The laboratory became strangely beautiful. The faint light seemed almost magical. Maria often admired it. At that time, no one fully understood the dangers of radiation. To Maria and Pierre, the glowing material represented hope. It revealed that nature still held many secrets waiting to be discovered. Scientists around the world became excited. The Curies had opened the door to an entirely new field of research. Yet fame was never what Maria had been searching for. She was far more interested in the next experiment than in the next newspaper headline. Still, the world had begun to notice her work. And before long, one of the greatest honors in science would arrive. A prize shared. In 1903, Maria and Pierre Curie received wonderful news. Together with Henri Becquerel, they had been awarded the Nobel Prize in Physics. It was one of the highest honors a scientist could receive. At first, Maria's name was almost left out of the nomination. Some people believed that Pierre alone deserved the recognition. When Pierre learned about this, he spoke firmly. He explained that the discoveries had been the result of their work together. Maria's contribution could not be separated from his own. The decision was changed. Both of their names appeared on the prize. It was an important moment in the history of science. For the first time, a woman received a Nobel Prize. The award brought international attention. Reporters wanted interviews. Universities invited the couple to give lectures. People across Europe admired their achievements. But very little changed inside the Curie laboratory. The benches were still crowded with bottles and instruments. The experiments continued. Maria believed that science belonged to everyone. She and Pierre chose not to patent the process of producing radium. Instead, they shared their research openly so that scientists around the world could continue learning from it. To Maria, knowledge became more valuable when it was shared. Life seemed full of hope. But happiness can sometimes change without warning. Soon, Maria would face the greatest loss of her life, finding strength again. In the spring of 1906, tragedy arrived unexpectedly. Pierre Curie was walking through the streets of Paris when he was struck by a horse-drawn wagon. He died in the accident. Maria was heartbroken. She had lost not only her husband, but also her closest friend and research partner. For many weeks, she found it difficult to return to the laboratory. Every table, every notebook, every piece of equipment reminded her of Pierre. The silence felt heavier than ever before. Many people wondered whether Maria would continue her scientific work. She asked herself the same question. Then, little by little, she found the strength to begin again. She accepted Pierre's teaching position at the Sorbonne. It was another historic moment. Marie Curie became the university's first female professor. When she gave her first lecture, the classroom was filled with students and journalists. Many expected an emotional speech. Instead, Maria quietly continued exactly where Pierre's last lecture had ended. She spoke about science. Nothing more, nothing less. It was her way of honoring the work they had begun together. From that day forward, Maria carried the research on her own. The path ahead would not be easy, but neither was she willing to stop. Soon, years of determination would lead to another extraordinary achievement, one that no scientist had ever accomplished before: a second Nobel Prize. After Pierre's death, Marie Curie continued her research with quiet determination. Every day, she returned to the laboratory. She carefully repeated experiments. She recorded every observation. She believed that science deserved patience. Years of hard work slowly brought new discoveries. Marie learned more about the properties of radium and other radioactive elements. Her research helped scientists understand matter in a completely new way. Doctors also began to see that radiation could be used to treat certain diseases. It was only the beginning, but a new path was opening. In 1911, Marie received another extraordinary honor. She was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for her work on radium and polonium. It was a remarkable achievement. She became the first person ever to receive 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific fields. People around the world celebrated her success. But Marie never measured her life by medals or awards. To her, every discovery was simply another step forward. There was always another experiment to complete, another question to answer, another mystery waiting inside the laboratory. When the First World War began a few years later, Marie faced a new challenge. This time, science would leave the laboratory and enter the battlefield. She believed her knowledge could help save lives. And once again, she chose to serve others before herself. A legacy that still inspires. When the First World War began in 1914, Marie Curie saw thousands of wounded soldiers arriving from the front lines. Many doctors struggled to find broken bones or bullets hidden inside the body. Marie believed science could help. She worked with engineers and doctors to create small mobile X-ray units. These vehicles traveled close to the battlefields, allowing injured soldiers to be examined much more quickly. Marie even learned to drive the vehicles herself. She trained nurses and medical workers to operate the equipment safely. Together, they helped care for countless patients during the war. After the war, Marie returned to scientific research. She continued studying radioactivity and encouraged young scientists to keep exploring the unknown. Years of working with radioactive materials slowly affected her health. At that time, the dangers of radiation were still not fully understood. Marie Curie passed away on July 4, 1934. She was 66 years old. But her story did not end there. Today, her discoveries continue to influence medicine, physics, chemistry, and many other fields. Hospitals around the world still use technologies that grew from the early research she helped begin. More importantly, Marie showed that curiosity, determination, and kindness can change the world. She never allowed obstacles to decide what she could become. She simply kept learning, kept asking questions, kept moving forward. Long ago, a young girl in Warsaw opened a book and dreamed of understanding the world. She never stopped turning the next page. And because she didn't, millions of people have been given the chance to live healthier lives, explore new discoveries, and believe that knowledge belongs to everyone willing to seek it.